let's talk about sonnets. So Shakespeare had 154 sonnets, and there were 3 different segments to his sonnets. So basically we have part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1 is about a young man who basically doesn't know how to stop partying, and Shakespeare's telling him he needs to settle down and carry on his family's name. Part 2 is about a mistress, and we're not sure if Shakespeare, had encounters with the mistress, but he did write about her. That those are what we're going to be calling the love sonnets. And then part 3 of his sonnets were about the young man from part 1 and the mistress from part 2 having an affair together. And Shakespeare did put a lot of emotion into that last set of sonnets too. But today I want to talk about how to write a sonnet. So again, just a review, a sonnet is a 14-line poem, and it has 3 quatrains, which are 4 lines, and a couplet. So if you look at my mouse right here, this is what we call a quatrain. That's going to be 4 lines. And then the couplet here is at the end, G, G. The rhyme scheme is going to be A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G. So if you look at this, as I said earlier in your intro to Shakespeare notes, shame and blame rhyme, so they're going to get the same letter. Then we have a new rhyme, lust and trust, gets the B. Then we have straight and bait. That doesn't rhyme with any of these up here, so we get a new letter, which is C. Then we have had and mad. We get a new letter here, so D and D, and so forth. And so this is written in Iambic Pentameter, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today. So Iambic Pentameter is going to consist of 5 feet of unstressed and stressed syllables. So when we look up here, we've got, this is what we call feet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So feet are broken down by these little lines here, but we do that by syllable. So a foot is going to have 2 syllables in it. It's the expense of spirit in a waste of shame. Now I'm going to break this down in a little bit more detail. So in a poem, we have something called line versus meter. So line is simply a line of poetry, a pretty or deliberate order of words. So for example, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. That is a line. Songs that you listen to are written in lines. However, meter is when a line of poetry has rhythm. So here's an example. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks. Now we wouldn't exactly say it as how I just said it, but it does have a rhythm to it. It's a ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. So say it again. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks. So why do you think that these sonnets, or, that's a line from Romeo and Juliet. Why would we have a rhythm in lines from a play? Well, it helped the actors and actresses remember the lines. So here is a rule. By the pricking of my rule of thumb, line is not always meter, but meter is always line. So what's that rule about squares and rectangles and math? It's the same difference, okay? This is just for poetry. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this line from Romeo and Juliet. This is from the balcony scene. So here we have feet, okay? And I'm breaking them down. How many feet or how many syllables are in a foot, okay? But soft, that's 2. What light, there's 2 syllables. Through yon, that's 2 syllables. Der wind, that's 2 syllables. Do breaks, that's 2 syllables, okay? So this is what we call a foot, okay? Well, we've got 2 syllables in each line. We have a foot. Haha, you like my feet here? Ew. All right. So now there are 5 feet to a meter, okay? 5 feet to a meter. This is where we get the word pentameter. So we've got pentameter. How many sides are on a pentagon here. We've got 5, and then we've got meter. So 5 meter. So there are 5 feet in a meter. Think pentagon. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this foot. So now we're just going to look at a foot. So we know where in iambic pentameter, we know where we get the word pentameter. It means there's 5 feet in a meter. But what is an iamb? I'm going to talk about that next. So this is what an iamb is. So we've got an unstressed and a stressed syllable here. So unstressed is going to just not have a lot of emphasis on it. And this little sign right here, this U, I mean, it looks like looks like a U for unstressed. It's actually called a diphthong in poetry. And then you've got this stress symbol. So you put your emphasis here, but soft, okay? So remember, an iamb and a foot are the same thing, but an iamb is going to have unstressed, stressed, okay? So if I were to ask you, what is an iamb? You're going to say where you have a foot that's unstressed, stressed. So it kind of makes this noise like ba-bum, okay? Ba-bum. And I'm going to show you how to do this with your hands in another video. But I always say just grab something. I usually use dum-dums in class, but you'll go ba-bum. So now when we put it together, you'll say, but soft, what light, through yonder window breaks. So you'll have to do a little bit more practice on this. I'm just trying to keep this sweet and simple. So now you know that iambic pentameter is a line of verse, that is meter, which means it has rhythm. It's made up of 5 feet or iambs, and then each iamb has unstressed or stressed syllables. Yes, I know this is confusing. Hopefully I clarified this for you. But how do you figure out if a line of poetry has iambic pentameter? Well, the first thing you do is you count the syllables. So does it have 10 syllables in the line? And then you apply the ba-bum rhythm to those words. Does it sound smooth? Does it flow? Is it natural and complete? So if you answer yes to both of these questions, then yes to the iambic pentameter, then more than likely it is iambic pentameter, okay? So, we're going to practice a little bit more with this. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I know this is confusing. Trust me. So here's an example of one of Shakespeare's sonnets. It's Sonnet 29, which basically is like a really angsty teenage sonnet that talks about the hopelessness of life and love, etc. So I thought you might enjoy this. So I'm not going to read the entire thing because I'm trying to keep this brief. However, I do want to try our iambic pentameter task here. But first, let's point out the rhyme scheme. So we've got A, so we've got A, eyes and cries, state and fate. So we've got A, B, then hope and scope rhyme, possessed and list. So least, possessed, it's a slant rhyme. So we've got C, D, and then we've got despising, arising, state, and gate. So that's E, F, and then lastly we have our couplet, brings and kings. So that's GG. So now let's look at this line. So when we're trying to figure out iambic pentameter, we want to ask, does the line have 10 syllables? So let's try this. Use your fingers, use your chin, whatever it is, however you were taught. So when in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes. So yes, it does have 10 syllables. Now we have to figure out where it's unstressed and stressed. So after you find your 10 syllables in your line, you're going to put your backslash after every 2 syllables. So for example, when in, that's 2, boom. Disgrace, boom. With 4, boom. Tune and, boom. Men's eyes. Okay, so now you can look, after you have your little dashes here, you can see that you have 5 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, there's your pentameter. So now you have to find your I am. So normally in a sonnet, it's going to be unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. So you have when in, disgrace with fortune and men's eyes. So here I've used yellow for unstressed and blue for stressed. So again, it makes that ba-bum sound. When in, disgrace with fortune and men's eyes. So for the second line, I counted to see if there were 10 syllables. I all alone beweep my outcast state. So yes, there are 10 syllables. Then I'm going to go and divide it by 2. Each put a backslash after every second syllable. So I all backslash, alone backslash, beweep backslash, my out backslash cast state. Then you have your 5 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's your pentameter. Next, you need to find your unstressed and stressed. So you've got I all, which you've got unstressed, stressed, alone, beweep, my out, cast state. So now you can identify a sonnet and identify iambic pentameter. But can you write a sonnet in iambic pentameter? Let's see. Parting is such sweet sorrow.